The psychological unraveling of the American commander-in-chief is currently being live-streamed across social media, and the implications for national security, global markets, and the fundamental stability of the republic are absolutely staggering. Donald Trump has abruptly and without prior authorization or scheduling completely abandoned Washington, D.C. He is reportedly flying out right now, desperately heading to the absolute political safety of Florida, citing an urgent need for executive time. This is a massive, unprecedented breach of protocol. The President of the United States was highly scheduled to attend the incredibly prestigious White House Correspondents' Dinner this Saturday evening, an event that traditionally serves as a critical bridge between the executive branch and the free press. Instead, he simply jetted out of the White House, completely ghosting the political establishment, leaving aides scrambling and intelligence analysts deeply concerned. If you look at his official public calendar, it simply terrifyingly reads, "Executive time." The sheer, undeniable panic emanating from the Oval Office is palpable. Is he desperately organizing a massive dark money fundraiser? Is he fleeing to the highly volatile, unregulated crypto conference currently taking place in Florida? Or is he simply retreating to his fortress at Mar-a-Lago, aggressively utilizing taxpayer dimes to go golfing, treating the luxury resort as his personal, state-funded therapy session, while the geopolitical world literally burns around him? The reality is clear. The president is deeply stressed out, completely panicking, and actively fleeing the massive, undeniable fact that the Islamic Republic of Iran absolutely refuses to give in to his hollow, increasingly erratic military threats. You are about to witness the absolute cognitive and strategic collapse of an administration desperately trying to rewrite reality while losing total control of the global narrative. Welcome to the final desperate flight of Donald Trump. To accurately analyze this staggering crisis of executive stability, we must meticulously unpack the terrifyingly absurd, deeply racist, and entirely psychotic social media barrage the president launched literally as he was boarding Air Force One to flee the Capitol. As the footage clearly shows, Donald Trump is absolutely not projecting the image of a healthy, stable commander-in-chief. His physical deterioration is visibly accelerating, mirroring his profound cognitive and strategic decline. The situation has degraded from concerning to an absolute, unmitigated national security crisis. Right as he was physically boarding the heavily modified Boeing 747, utilizing the awesome, unmatched power of the presidency, he actively chose to launch a deeply racist, highly erratic series of attacks against prominent figures. He specifically targeted Candace Owens. Let us be absolutely clear for the historical record. No serious intelligence analyst or objective observer is defending Candace Owens. However, the sheer, undeniable viciousness of the president's attack is staggering. Trump posted deeply racist, highly offensive images targeting Owens, immediately followed by launching aggressive, deeply racist statements aimed squarely at House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries. This is not the behavior of a global statesman. It is the absolute, unvarnished conduct of an atrocious, deeply compromised human being desperately lashing out. Trump explicitly wrote, "Candace Owens' stock, which was never very high, has fallen a long way. Her attack on the First Lady of France is despicable. I believe in this case, without verification, she is an extremely low IQ individual." He then proceeded to post a bizarre, highly manipulated image that branded Owens as the vile person of the year, accusing her of protecting sex offenders and explicitly claiming she uses rich white men. The sheer, towering hypocrisy of this specific attack is mind-boggling. Donald Trump is currently on verified public audio viciously attacking French President Emmanuel Macron and Macron's wife himself. Yet, as he flees the Capitol, he attempts to suddenly claim the moral high ground. Furthermore, his repeated obsessive use of the specific phrase low IQ when aggressively targeting black individuals is a highly documented, deeply racist tactic. It is not a subtle political dog whistle. It is a blaring air horn of pure, unadulterated racism deployed by the president to demean and degrade his political opponents. The racist barrage seamlessly and dangerously transitioned directly to Hakeem Jeffries. Trump furiously posted, "Hakeem high-tax Jeffries is a low IQ individual who is not smart enough to be running the Democrat Party and certainly not smart enough to be involved in running the United States of America. It's people like this who almost destroyed our nation with their high-tax, open border policies." Trump concluded the massive rant by aggressively declaring that Jeffries is engaging in maximum warfare everywhere, all the time. Let us pause and analyze the absolute irony of that specific statement. Hakeem Jeffries did, in fact, promise to engage in maximum warfare. He explicitly promised the American people that when the MAGA Republican apparatus attempts to illegally rig electoral maps, when they attempt to systematically dismantle the Constitution, he will relentlessly stand up and engage in total political warfare to stop them. The Democratic leadership is fully mobilized, completely unafraid, and Trump is deeply, visibly terrified of the political consequences, while the American commander-in-chief is literally running away to Florida to post racist memes. What is the actual, verifiable situation occurring on the geopolitical stage? The intelligence coming directly out of Tehran is absolutely devastating to the Trump administration's carefully constructed, entirely fictional narrative of global dominance. The Islamic Republic of Iran is formally, publicly, and aggressively denying that they are seeking any form of diplomatic talks with the United States. The Iranian state media is explicitly stating that absolutely any statement coming from the White House claiming that Iran desperately wants to meet with the United States and Pakistani mediators is entirely 100% false. According to the highly influential Iranian news agency Tasnim, Iran has absolutely made no request for direct talks with the United States. The verified intelligence reveals the exact humiliating opposite. It is the United States officials who have been desperately, pathetically seeking renewed negotiations through Pakistani intermediaries. The Iranian response has been a masterful display of geopolitical dominance and total, uncompromising rejection. Tehran has bluntly told Washington, "We absolutely do not want to meet with you unless and until you immediately remove the illegal naval blockade from the vital Persian Gulf, permanently stop threatening us with military annihilation, and explicitly agree to negotiate strictly within the established 10-point negotiating framework." The Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesperson, speaking officially on behalf of Foreign Minister Araghchi, delivered the absolute final, humiliating blow to the Trump administration's diplomatic facade. The spokesperson stated unequivocally, no meeting is planned to take place between Iran and the United States. The Iranians confirmed they would convey their observations strictly to Pakistan, completely freezing the Americans out of the diplomatic loop. Yet, Donald Trump, in a desperate attempt to project a completely fabricated image of diplomatic progress, bizarrely insists that his highly controversial, entirely unqualified envoys, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, are going to fly out there and somehow force a meeting. The Iranian foreign minister essentially responded to this desperate American ploy by asking, "Dude, what are you talking about? We absolutely do not want to meet with you at all." The geopolitical humiliation is truly profound and absolutely unprecedented in modern American history. This absolute diplomatic collapse is precisely why Donald Trump is feeling the immense, crushing heat, and precisely why he is abruptly fleeing Washington, D.C. The sheer pressure of his massive, undeniable failures is simply too much for his fragile psychology to bear. Will he eventually muster the courage to fly back tomorrow for the White House Correspondents' Dinner? Or will he completely abandon the prestigious event entirely? To further mask his massive geopolitical failures, Trump has resorted to posting highly bizarre, completely unhinged architectural updates regarding completely irrelevant monuments in Washington, D.C. In the middle of an international crisis, he desperately posted, "Coming soon, the reflecting pool at the Lincoln Memorial." He then proudly, bizarrely posted that the reflecting pool is 2,500 feet in length. He then immediately pivoted to aggressively taking personal credit for the basic maintenance of 2 small fountains in Lafayette Park, explicitly claiming it was his great honor to have funded the project. The President of the United States, while losing control of the critical Strait of Hormuz, is desperately attempting to take political credit for fixing a municipal fountain. The delusion deepened as he posted a massive, highly inaccurate rant regarding the renovation of the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool. He wildly claimed the project was originally supposed to cost $31 million and take 3 long years, but that his administration miraculously completed it in 1 single week for only $2 million. It is a completely fabricated, highly concerning display of a leader entirely unmoored from physical reality, desperately inventing minor architectural victories to distract from massive global catastrophes. But the absolute terrifying pinnacle of his economic delusion was revealed in his subsequent attack on the United States Supreme Court. Donald Trump furiously posted a massive rant complaining about a recent, highly significant Supreme Court ruling regarding his devastating, highly destructive tariff policies. Trump explicitly raged that the court was supposedly forcing the United States to give back $159 billion to companies he falsely claims have taken advantage of the country. He completely, arrogantly dismissed the complex legal ruling, bizarrely claiming that if the Supreme Court had simply added one little half sentence, the United States would magically be $159 billion richer. Let us completely, surgically dismantle this massive economic lie. The reality, completely verified by every serious macroeconomic analyst, is that Donald Trump illegally, aggressively stole that $159 billion by completely breaking established international trade law. He forcefully seized those massive funds by imposing entirely unlawful, highly punitive tariffs against the entire global market. Those tariffs were not paid by foreign governments. They were massive, highly regressive taxes imposed directly on American importers. Those massive costs were immediately, inevitably passed directly onto the American working-class consumer, violently increasing inflation, completely devastating the supply chain, and causing catastrophic, long-term economic impacts across the entire United States. The Supreme Court did not steal money. They legally ordered the administration to return the capital it had illegally plundered from the American economy. While Donald Trump is actively fleeing the Capitol and raging against the highest court in the land, what is his wife, Melania Trump, doing? The White House official social media accounts recently posted a highly bizarre, completely tone-deaf video of the First Lady supposedly building intricate replica White House beehives. While the geopolitical world teeters on the absolute brink of massive regional conflict, the administration is actively attempting to project an incredibly weird, highly disconnected image of domestic tranquility involving miniature beehives. Simultaneously, highly concerning intelligence is emerging regarding the systemic, deliberate corruption of the American free press. Investigative journalist Michael Grinbaum recently reported a massive, highly disturbing development. Last night, completely behind closed doors, Donald Trump held a highly exclusive, entirely secret dinner with David Ellison and the absolute top executive personnel of CBS News. The intelligence confirms that Trump sat directly with Ellison, Barry Weiss, Melania, and Paramount's chief legal officer. Several highly prominent CBS journalists, including Norah O'Donnell, willingly attended this completely compromised event. Donald Trump reportedly spoke entirely off the record for nearly a full hour. This is the absolute definition of institutional corruption. These are deeply collusive, highly unethical meetings occurring between a failing, desperate autocrat and the new, highly consolidated regime media, taking place right before the massive White House Correspondents' Dinner. The entire historical point of the dinner was to fiercely celebrate the absolute freedom of the press, the sacred First Amendment, and the vital, necessary right of journalists to aggressively criticize, mock, and hold the president completely accountable. Now, there is absolutely no comedian booked for the dinner. The event has been completely hijacked, transformed into a massive, highly coordinated propaganda vehicle for Donald Trump to desperately collude with state-aligned media executives. He is utilizing this massive platform to violently push out his fabricated narrative, as he has personally directly caused a horrific, terrifying situation with Iran, now firmly, militarily controlling the vital Strait of Hormuz, leaving the American economy utterly, completely screwed. The catastrophic economic consequences of Trump's massive diplomatic failure are already causing massive, highly destructive shockwaves throughout the global energy markets. Iranian state media is proudly, aggressively pointing out a massive, highly renewed surge in global oil prices. Brent crude oil prices, which had temporarily dropped for a single hour following entirely false, highly manipulated reports from the American media regarding supposed Iran negotiations, have now violently skyrocketed back above a punishing $105 per barrel after the massive falsehoods were completely exposed. The global markets know that Donald Trump is completely lying, and the American consumer is paying the ultimate crushing price at the pump. The Midas Touch Network's Washington D.C. correspondent, Scott McFarland, provided the absolute, definitive intelligence analysis of this entire disastrous macroeconomic paradigm while speaking with CNN today. McFarland brilliantly highlighted the massive, highly disturbing contrast between the severe, crushing economic suffering of the American people and the lavish, completely disconnected reality of the political establishment. McFarland stated unequivocally that the data proves candidates are getting massive negative feedback from voters entirely focused on the crushing cost of living. He perfectly described the terrifying dynamic currently infecting Washington, D.C. It's like we're driving down the road 100 miles an hour without noticing the engine light is on, or the brakes are iffy because they're fighting over seemingly everything. The political establishment is preparing for an ornate, highly exclusive black tie dinner, while the actual constituents are deeply, profoundly terrified about the massive, skyrocketing costs of electricity, the completely unaffordable prices of basic vehicles, and the basic, fundamental ability to survive. McFarland correctly identified a massive, highly dangerous myopia deeply infecting the entire capital. The administration is completely, intentionally blind to the massive economic pain they have actively caused. And the ultimate terrifying proof of this complete detachment from reality was delivered directly by White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. In a display of sheer, unadulterated propaganda, Leavitt explicitly, falsely confirmed to the press that Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff are heading to Islamabad tomorrow morning to engage in direct talks with the Iranian delegation. She boldly, aggressively claimed that the Iranians specifically reached out and desperately asked for this in-person conversation. She claimed the president is graciously dispatching his envoys to simply hear what they have to say. Let us clearly, definitively state the absolute reality. Iran has completely, totally denied this. They have publicly, aggressively stated they will absolutely not meet with the American delegation. The United States is desperately, pathetically claiming to be engaged in high-level diplomatic negotiations, while the adversary is publicly mocking them and explicitly stating, "We are absolutely not speaking to you." It is an absolutely humiliating, globally embarrassing dynamic for the United States. The intelligence mosaic we have just painstakingly assembled reveals a terrifying, completely undeniable truth about the current state of the American Republic. The commander-in-chief is experiencing a massive, highly public psychological breakdown, explicitly fleeing the capital to post deeply racist attacks against his political opponents while desperately bragging about minor architectural projects. The administration is completely, totally paralyzed by massive, self-inflicted geopolitical failures, desperately lying to the global public about non-existent diplomatic negotiations, while Iran actively chokes off the global energy supply. The domestic economy is violently buckling under the massive weight of illegal tariffs and soaring oil prices, while the administration secretly colludes with massive corporate media executives to completely control the political narrative. We are no longer simply driving 100 miles an hour with the check engine light flashing. The political and economic engine of the United States has completely seized, and the president has completely abandoned the vehicle. The facade of American strength has completely shattered, entirely replaced by the deeply erratic, highly dangerous panic of a completely failing regime. The global order is shifting at breakneck, terrifying speed, and the United States, under this leadership, is entirely, irrevocably asleep at the wheel.